Okay, it's now preparing to go live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Alfred Lamont Weber, and it's a great privilege to be here today with Donna D'Angelo of the Institute for Christ Consciousness. And today we'll be talking about human, spiritual, and creative potential, which is a huge subject. So over to you, Donna.
Thank you, Alfred, and it's good to be back with you and your viewing audience. I chose this topic tonight because I think it really speaks to the time that we're in. We are witnessing a revelation of great truth, light on the planet, revealing the darkness that has been holding this planet in check in ways of war, poverty, illness, economic subservience to a particular agenda. And I've spoken about this agenda. I really don't want to really go into that anymore because I think most people or many people are now aware that there is something very wrong here happening on the planet. But the good news is that this is also a time of great awakening of the spiritual and creative potential that humanity has the privilege and the responsibility to manifest through our daily lives. One of the things that is so near and dear to my heart about this developing our creative and spiritual potential, that it takes us directly into those patterns of perfection that have been seeded into each one of us by our Creator. The Urantia book, Perspective, is something that has really guided me along this path of my creative and spiritual potential. And I think there's a truism here that everyone has tremendous potential. We just don't know how to tap into it because we have a tremendous amount of interference in our material culture that is trying to keep us focused on things that have less importance. So I know that many people are very afraid about their material well-being, their financial well-being, and their physical health. And that is noteworthy. This is a time when there is a lot of insecurity. But underneath all that fear and insecurity is something, what I call a treasure trove that our Creator has seeded into each person to develop on his or her own based on the choices that each individual makes. You might call this excavating for your potential or for your purpose, to go beyond what you think you know, what you think you've been told or been beholden to by certain institutional beliefs, whether they're scientific or religious or political, to go beyond that and to dig deeper into your relationship with your Creator, where those patterns of perfection lie in kind of like a holding pattern waiting for us to tap into. And when we tap into that, something really almost magical happens. We begin to feel more purposeful, more connected to spirit. And even though we may still have some time to work through gleaning what our true purpose is, there is this incredible wealth of human creativity to connect with spirit, to engage with our spiritual source in our mind, to come up with innovative ideas to create a better social culture. And that includes the solutions for our social ills that are so sorely affecting us right now. The development of our spiritual and creative potential, to me, is what we are here to do. This is the purpose of life. There's a variety of things that occur when we do this, and one of those is to move beyond the insecurity of material living into that realm of dedicated living as faith sons and daughters of God, putting our trust within the potential that our Creator has seated within us to bring forth through our daily decisions and our actions. And so in the work that I do, I help people access this deep inner realm by holding a space for those patterns of perfection to start bubbling up to the surface of one's conscious mind in order to have the spirit shed light on what your gifts are, so that you can start thinking about how you want to live them, make them a part of your everyday life. So this is something that this planet has never fully experienced. Our potential to be loving, peaceful, compassionate, trustworthy, kind, and tolerant human beings has never been fully developed on this world. We have lived in an environment of separation from our divine source and from one another. And when we start to tap into this potential, we are moving beyond what our culture teaches us into those patterns that have been seeded into us for us to make real in real time through our daily lives. For example, in my own personal experience, I never really pursued any kind of what you might call a high-powered career, working in corporate America, pursuing a job that would give me a high degree of income or influence in a pecking order, or a corporate pecking order sort of thing. I always felt that there was a higher purpose for my life. So I went through my 30s and even into my early 40s, not really knowing what that purpose was. But I had a very traumatic experience in 1991 wherein I lost my twins through a miscarriage. And it was, even though it was a very devastating experience, and I really lost my identity because I really identified with wanting to be a mother, I actually found what my purpose was. And it was to bring about healing. But this is a big field, this field of healing, and so as I started to explore energy medicine and reading books about different types of energy medicine and healing, I began to intuit that this is what I was really here to do. And not only from a standpoint of healing myself, but helping others heal and tap into what their true purpose for life was. So this is something that we have, each of us has the potential to achieve if we want to go on that inner journey. And many people are awakening to the fact that they have a higher purpose. There's a kind of an inner yearning or an inkling that there's something better for them. And that's that spirit starting to put light or what you might call spiritual pressure on that person's potential. The spirit knows what you're capable of. And now it's encouraging you to bring that forward through your thoughts and feelings and to make that real through your decisions and actions. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I'll just stop here and see if you have any thoughts you might wish to add or any questions.
Well, the question that sort of came to me as you were saying that is, how do you uncover or discover your mission? Or, I mean, so many people are searching for their aim. So how does your soul discover its mission, or could you talk about that process?
Yes, yes, it is a process, and that is important to identify and remember, because we have grown up in a culture of immediate gratification, and this does not provide one with immediate gratification. It does provide you with a greater sense of purposefulness, but it happens over time. And many of the people that I work with now are very interested in tapping into their potential and finding their purpose. But the thing that is so funny, it's not something that you can just analytically kind of come into an awareness about. It's more of a soul experience or a heart experience. It comes from an inner desire to do good, to be an agent of transformation on the planet, and to put aside what you think you know and tap into the spiritual source within you, who knows the divine plan for your life and has all the information for your life. So the number one practice in order to begin this process is quieting your mind, the stillness practice. The stillness practice with the objective to make conscious contact with your own indwelling spirit. Now, this is something that takes time to develop because the mind has not been naturally trained to hold space to be quiet for, say, several minutes at a time. A lot of times when a person begins the meditation process, there's a lot of different meditation techniques. But what I advocate is the type of meditation that has a specific intention of making conscious contact with the spirit, so that that spirit can start moving into your conscious bandwidth and begin to inlay information, little clues, insights, thoughts, and feelings that will stimulate the thinking processes within your mind about who you are and what you might be capable of achieving. Now, I think many people have a very strong creative bent, especially when they're children. Children are naturally creative, imaginative, and playful. And when we go through the rigorous schooling that we have in our Western cultures, that tends to move us into certain thoughts, arenas of thought, to make us worker bees into certain industries. And we begin to lose that sense of playfulness and creativity along the way. Now, I'm hopeful that the younger generation is a little bit more sensitive to spiritual energy and beginning to open up to their potential in a way that perhaps our generation wasn't able to do. But regardless of the generation, it's still the same process. The spirit is trying to shed light on those things that our Creator wants to do in and through and with us. This is a co-creative endeavor, with spirit helping us become more than who we think we are and what we think we can accomplish. That saying, with God, all things are possible, is literally true. But how often do we really rise to the challenge and say, I'm going to live by this. I'm going to strive to achieve this. So the first step is really making a dedicated practice of quieting your mind every day, perhaps for a good 20 to 30 minutes, so that you are comfortable with quieting your mind, taking yourself away from all the din and clutter of our material world, and just receive what your spirit wants to convey to you. Okay, so that is the first step. The second step is what I call more of the healing transformative process. And this seems to be a little bit of a longer period of adjustment to look at those things in your life that have held you back, feelings of insecurity, unworthiness, a sense of feeling disconnected from who you are. This is a type of process that the Spirit is helping you see through the lens of divine love and understanding and compassion, so that you can begin to see yourself not as a limited human, but from the divine perspective that says, you are better than this, and I'm going to elevate you out of this experience or this anger or this trauma through the power of forgiveness, so you can let this go and allow that potential to start to bubble up to the surface. So in the second stage, or the healing or the transformative process, there's a period of adjustment when the Spirit is helping you look at those things that hold you back from your potential, and to help you make sense, a greater sense of who you are as a potent creator that is seated with tremendous spiritual power, that you can make these changes in your life. Again, going back to my own experience, one of the things I learned about through my spiritual helpers was this idea of generational healing. I started learning about this from my spirit helpers around 2003, when I kept hearing generational healing, generational healing. And what they were showing me and what I was seeing in sessions is that traumatic memories can be transferred from generation to generation, even going way back into the ancestral past. And I had to look at some of my behaviors when I was full of anger or resentment or intolerance, to ask my spirit to show me where those behaviors were coming from. And when I would go into meditation and I would ask those questions, my spirit would bring up these experiences for me to look at with the lens of objectivity, not just from what I experienced, but from a broader perspective of what was going on in relationship to other people. And so that was very helpful in helping me let go of my anger and my frustration, because I was given so much love and compassion that I could let go of my anger toward myself for making mistakes or judgments, and let go of the anger that I felt towards other people. So over a period of time, I began to perceive with my spirit eyes the actual process by which spirit is going into memory and illuminating that memory with great love and compassion, so that a person can open up that experience and see that it's only there to help you let go of it and to move it to a higher level of understanding. And a lot of times when I would be working with people, I would see their experience or for example, their emotion of unworthiness as a big lie that was perpetuated on them by someone, or some experience that they had in their life that made them feel unworthy. But it was just a mask behind the potential that they have to become great. And the best example of this in human life experience was Jesus. He developed his human potential to the degree that he was a perfected divine/human being. And I believe that this is the path that he has laid out for us, that we can do this too. So the third step in this process is now tapping into that potential. So once this interference of unworthiness and the emotions of anger and resentment and judgment, I'm not going to say are 100% cleared, but they are less operative. When they're less operative, then the spirit has an opportunity to bring forth some of those, let's say, gifts that a person has within them that they may not know themselves, and give that person an opportunity to express that. I found in my life a few years ago that I was suppressing my artistic creativity. And so I took up coloring with the colored pencils and the coloring book. And I had so much fun doing that because it kind of brought me back to that creativity I had when I was a child, that I kind of let that all go due to the pressures of job and family life. So the intention here is, once you get beyond more of the interference of not only your own mental chatter, but those things that are in your emotional body or your mental body, or even your physical body that are holding you back, you can begin to sense that the spirit is bringing something forward in you. It's stimulating an idea, a question, a query for us to explore. So once we tap into that, then we are beginning to cooperate with our potential. We're beginning to cooperate with what and how our Creator wants to experience life through us. Because God, as a spiritual being, doesn't have a physical corporeal body as we have. That's why the gift of the indwelling spirit is there to give our Creator an opportunity to experience life at this physical level with and through us. And we can perform these incredible feats of healing and creativity, because now, to use that phrase, we are letting go and letting God. So this is just a little bit of an overview of the process. A colleague of mine, Leon Vanderpool, and I did a course a number of years ago called Journey into Your Higher Self and Purpose. And it takes you into a 10-week step-by-step process about all these things that I've just said, to move through this healing process, to find your own inner light and your own inner potential so that you can bring that forward. Because everyone, whether or not they recognize it, has a sacred purpose for their lives. But unfortunately, on this world, we do not recognize that as the purpose for human life, nor do we seek that and make that a concerted striving in our everyday life.
Right, right. So what function does meditation have in all of this?
It provides the clean and clear environment to perceive the inner voice of spirit that has all of the answers, that knows our potential and sees the potential and wants to help us bring that forward. So the meditation that I advocate is a stilling the mind practice with the specific intention to make contact with the indwelling spirit. Now, there are many kinds of meditation, but this one in particular is focused on developing that relationship with the Spirit of God within. Why would we in meditation want to do anything less than that? If our spirit has all the information we would ever need for our lives and sees deeply within us of what we are capable of achieving, then why wouldn't we want to cooperate with that? It's so beautiful when people begin to sense their purpose, because what that does is it creates a type of bond between humans that is of a spiritual connection. And everyone has a piece of the puzzle for planetary healing, whether you're a doctor or a physicist or an educator, or just, an average person who doesn't really have a grand calling. There, you have potential for spiritual and creative development. And some people will be called to be what you might say movers and shakers of a higher planetary culture and destiny. And some people will just be called to live a God and goodly life. It doesn't really matter, because all of that goodness and all of that potential, all that good potential and creativity is adding to the collective whole. And that is how we change our collective consciousness. When more people start to wake up to the spiritual potential they have within them and say, yes, I want to develop that. For me, the inspiration came from reading part 4 in the Arancha book and reading precisely how Jesus crafted his human personality so that he became aware of his divine mission, and he became more like a God man on the planet. I believe that that is the purpose for every human, to become more of a God man or God woman on the planet, in conjunction with our spirit, so that we can tackle these incredibly difficult problems that we're facing and come up with divinely designed solutions that build a higher planetary culture. So the meditation role is fundamental and foundational to this whole development of your potential.
So would you like to lead us through a meditation now, or?
Okay, yeah, certainly. So if this is resonating with you, and if this is something that you've been struggling with achieving on your own, just set that intention to tap into your potential and to have more conscious awareness of what your purpose is. It's as simple as that, but it takes time to become aware. And I would encourage you, as we begin, and I'll lead you through a very simple meditative process. Just drop your focus down to your heart center and feel that intention to grow in your potential and to live more from your purpose. And as you take some deep breaths, let go of the stressors of the day and ask your spirit, what do I need to know right now in this moment to cultivate my purpose and potential? Let go of any agenda, any preconceived thoughts. Let your heart take over. And let your inclinations to be guided by spirit become foremost in your heart space. So in your mind's eye, see the words my potential and purpose. Just let them come up from a depth in your being. You might get some information, you might get some visceral feelings in your body. What we're going for here is to identify more with your purpose and your potential as a means of developing your higher self. Now, even though you may not recognize at this point what your purpose or your potential is, your spirit is aware of that and sees exactly where you are in your development of this. And so all you have to do here at this point is just hold that attention for your spirit to shed light onto those things that you can achieve, that you have not maybe yet recognized in yourself. If feelings of insecurity, uncertainty come up, that's normal. Recognize that they are there, but they don't have to impact you. And ask for something of a higher emotional nature to come through, such as trust. Trust in spirit. Trust in yourself. Because there is a higher self in you, your developing soul, that wants to help you co-create this. And I always encourage people to spend a few moments in thanking your spirit presence within for its presence within you and guiding you each day, whether or not you recognize this. That also opens the door to more spiritual receptivity. So know that this is a little exercise you can do every day. The more time you spend quieting the mind, the more you will train your mind to be in a state of reflection so that the spirit is able to communicate to you and your conscious mind is picking up on those signals. And just take a moment to gently come back to the presence of the room you're in. And if you had any thoughts or feelings come through, you can always jot them down and use as a guide to assist you in further meditation. And I thank you for allowing me to lead you in this brief moment of stillness and quiet.
I'd like to ask a question sort of bubbled up with some of the public work that I do around common law and natural law. This being a planet of the visitation, but also of with the fallen angels. How do you think the whole issue of this genocidal technologies pandemic, how is that seen in a wider light in terms of a Christic vision of the planet?
Wow, that's a big question you're asking. And my answer is just based on what I feel like I have perceived from Spirit, that this is a part of a massive outworking of an agenda that has really promoted a climate of hate for humanity, hate of life. And the phase that we are in right now is here to help people become aware of what has befallen this planet. The objective is to help people make a conscious choice whether or not to follow the leadings of Spirit, the way of truth and goodness and beauty, or to stay in fear and be subjected to an agenda that is really anti-life. And this particular intense period that we're going through is part of the wake-up call for humanity to see what has happened on this planet. It is not an easy thing to talk about the Lucifer rebellion when so many people are hardly aware of our relationship, our planetary relationship to the greater cosmos of life. We have been living in such an insulated and isolated understanding of who we are as a planetary culture that it is a big, what is the word, that dissonance, the
Cognitive dissonance?
yeah, cognitive dissonance, couldn't get that word, cognitive dissonance, that it is challenging for people to accept that we are a part of a bigger starry aggregation and that there are spiritual beings who are here to implement the divine plan for the planet, and that they are actually stimulating human creative and spiritual potential to live those divine plans to build a heavenly culture on the planet. So this is a time to get us back to the natural workings of what we've come to understand as universe law. And it's a big learning curve because we have to let go of so much of what we have learned that has been errorful or pointed in a direction that is anti-life into a direction that is loving and constructive of life and the life processes, not only for human longevity, but for the planet itself, for plant life and all living things. So this is a huge thing that we're going through right now. And that is why I wanted to talk about this creative and spiritual potential, because this is our way out. The problems that we're facing at its underlying foundation will not be corrected through political means or through scientific discovery. It is through spiritual awakening of each soul to recognize their intrinsic relationship with our Creator and their responsibility to the collective to be a loving, kind, considerate, and tolerant human being of others. And then once a human recognizes that, then to be in loving service to help our brothers and sisters recognize the Spirit of God within themselves. So one of the ways that people recognize the Spirit within themselves is to see the Spirit functioning in others through their acts of loving kindness and truth and goodness. So this is a very important time that we're going through. It's a historical time, and it will be looked at, I think, in generations to come as the turning point in which we let go of this agenda of the Lucifer rebellion and how it has impacted this planetary evolution for 250,000 years into learning how to collaborate with spirit in a way that renders us more receptive to a path, the path of love, the path of light. And when Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light," that's precisely what he meant. When you live in love, there's no more fear. What is there to fear? Because you know where you're going, you know who you are, you know what your destiny is. And this is something that has never been fully practiced or achieved on this world. And now we're at this time when people are awakening and tapping into this. And it's very important for more people to become aware that this is one of the purposes for which we have been created and given this great gift of life.
Beautiful, still pool of consciousness.
It's yummy. There are times when I go really deep and I don't even want to come out because it's so fulfilling and satisfying. And it just seems like this is the way we were intended to live. So
Now you hold some assemblies, virtual assemblies of contact with some of the spiritual beings that are part of the Urantia concept. Could you talk about these?
yes, and the Urantia book is really a wonderful revelatory text to broaden our context. And the spiritual beings that they present in terms of how they minister to us is information that we need to learn about how we are a part of this great theater of life, cosmos of life. And the spiritual beings are not confined to the Urantia text. It's just that the Urantia text, from what I have seen, is one of the best resources that talks about the spiritual hierarchy and its interactions with humanity. One of the things that I was trained to do in the early 90s was to quiet my mind and listen to the spiritual guidance, not only of my own spirit, but to many heavenly helpers who have pledged their lives of service to assist this world to outwork the rebellion and come into a higher way of living, a universe culture of life. So these spiritual beings are benevolent, loving, helpful, supportive, and give us practical guidance. And they want to make contact with as many humans as possible to facilitate the reception of the indwelling spirit and to provide people with information about what their purposes are so that they can fulfill their particular destiny. Now, that's what you might call a one-on-one interaction. And one of the services that we provide at the Institute of Christ Consciousness is to help people make contact with their helpers. And the collective approach that we take is to come on conference calls twice a month on the second and fourth Sunday of the month, and work with divine beings and our seraphim of our planet who are entrusted to helping our social institutions evolve to higher levels of consciousness, where we're reflecting the divine values of truth, goodness, and beauty in what those institutions are there to support humanity. Now, this is a big undertaking, and the call is called Planetary Transformation Conference Call. It is conducted on the 2nd and 4th Sundays of the month at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. They are open to anyone and all. And if you're interested, please email me at Donna at institutechristconsciousness.org. And I'll be happy to put you on the mailing list to participate. You'll get a recording of the call if you can't come on live, but you can listen to the call and participate in sending the energy that way, as well as you get a reminder notice and the written transcript. So our next call is Sunday, June 13th, and then the next one after that will be the 27th. So they're the 2nd and 4th Sundays of the month. One of the things we're doing is working with the Seraphim to hold the space and the intention for humans to say, we want a better way of life. We do not want these dark forces of hate and anger and this dark agenda to hold sway on the planet. We are going for transformation. And the celestials need our intentions. They cannot just arbitrarily come in and make things better for us. This is a co-creative universe. Humans were not created to sit around and just lead material lives. We were designed to connect with our indwelling spirit of God, make contact with our human potential that's seated within those patterns within us, and to bring that out for our own personal edification, as well as the edification and the fostering of a higher planetary culture. And so what we're doing on these calls is we're telling the Seraphim, we want a better way of life, and we are asking you to bring and build us with the spiritual energy that we need so that the consciousness can start to elevate to higher levels of thoughts, ideas, and creativity. And so human creativity and spiritual potential is really being called to wake up, pay attention, develop your higher self, find what your purpose is, tap into your potential, and live the life that God wants to live with and in and through you. And if everybody was doing this, everybody at the same time, this planet would change virtually overnight. So it's a big challenge, and we're right in the most intense time when people are beginning to recognize that something is very, very off here on this planet, and give us an opportunity to change course in our own personal space and then participate in the growing collective rehabilitation for this world so that we can begin to live in ways of peace and harmony, respect for one another, and in that unity of purpose of being loving and creative and helpful human beings of service to one another.
Well, thank you. Good. So, are there any words that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yes, I would encourage people to check out our website at institutechristconsciousness.org, especially to look at the services of the healing services that we provide. I have been taken deep, deep, deep into the workings of the human mind to see what holds people back, to hold a space for the spirit within, along with other spiritual helpers, to come in and stimulate their potential, to conduct the to facilitate the necessary healing of the interference within human mind, especially at subconscious levels that keeps people repeating behavior patterns that they can't seem to overcome themselves, because that is one of the biggest impediments to tapping into potential. So please explore our healing services page and our other spiritual services page, because we understand this process, and I've been through it. I've conducted thousands of sessions with people to help them tap into their potential. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart because I open to my potential and I know how good it is. And I just want to share this with others and help them achieve that, because when a person feels that, then they come back to life and they're living purposefully and joyfully. And boy, don't we need a lot more of that right now?
Yes, yes, we do.
We need more joy, more light, more laughter. And this is what tapping into your purpose does, because nobody can take that away from you. No one can take that away from you. People might naysay you, but no one can take that away from you. And everyone has the ability to do that. It's just for the matter of striving and some educational that this is possible.
Good. Well, thank you very much for joining our audience, and we look forward to your joining us again
Thank you,
in-
Alfred.
in the coming month.
I just want to make one more a little plug
Sure.
for the course that my colleague Leon Vanderpool and I developed called the Journey into Your Higher Self and Purpose. And you can find that on journeyintohigherself.com. And I hope that your viewing audience will take a look at that. It's a beautiful website that lays out this course of a 10-week process to help you tap into that. So you can do that on your own and really begin to sense that there's this greater purpose for why you're here. So thank you.
Journey into
Higherself.com.
self.com. I will check it out.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right. Well, much love to you and your viewing audience. And I look
Thank you very much.
next time together. Okay.
Thank you.
God bless.